So this is going to be a defining moment in history for our country. And I hope that President Trump is able to talk about the clear juxtaposition between his policies of a secure border, of jobs for our people, and no war, versus the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Putin invading Ukraine, that we have millions of illegal aliens coming into our country, and that the economy is hurting moms in working class America.
All right, I hope you had a good weekend. This is big, man. We are 57 days out from Election Day. Early voting started in North Carolina. It's going to be starting in Pennsylvania. The debate tomorrow is in Pennsylvania. Kamala hanging out all week. She took this random impromptu little visit to a spice store. All right, I give her a, you're going to go to a spice store. You get it? I like that. That's as far as I'm going to go, though. I'll just give her little props for a spice store as opposed to trying to fake it at a Wawa. Big show coming your way. Scott Presler is here. He's going to break down what they are doing to register voters, and it's impressive. Just giving you the preview. All right. Pennsylvania. Remember back in the day, Tim Russert used to have that whiteboard, Florida. It is now all about Pennsylvania, those 19 electoral votes. Here's the thing that's different, though. Donald Trump can win without Pennsylvania. She can't. So if he wins Pennsylvania, game over. She needs it. That blue wall is a wall for a reason. It's the one wall that they actually care about, apparently. And so tomorrow night, big debate. I've been in touch with the team. He's ready to go. Trust me when I say that. All right, before I do that, I had a great night's sleep last night. I mean, literally, it's probably one of the best nights sleep. Why do I think I sleep so well? It's because, you know what I take? Yeah. Beam's Dream Powder. I've been doing this now for a few months. And I'll be honest with you, every once in a while, I forget. And the difference between taking it and not, night and day, literally night and day. I've taken magnesium in the past. I've taken melatonin in the past. I've taken a bunch, teas or whatever, because I've always had a hard time falling asleep and staying asleep. When you take Beam's Dream Powder, it has all of it into one amazing powder. It tastes fantastic. I literally would drink this thing all day long. I take a scoop of it, put it in some water. I know some people who love putting it with milk. I don't really care. I like the water. Mix it up, put it in the microwave. I do 30 seconds. It tastes like this one. The one that I love is this. It's cinnamon cocoa. There's also a brownie one. I try that one. I mix it in sometimes. It's fantastic as well. But I'm telling you, you get all of the ingredients. It's got the magnesium, the reishi, theanine, apigen, all of it in one amazing mix. It's why so many professionals and athletes are doing it, because you're basically going to get an amazing night's sleep. So if you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off, go to shopbeam.com/Spicer and use promo code Spicer. Shopbeam.com/Spicer, promo code Spicer. You get up to 40% off. All right. The debate is tomorrow night. I've talked to the team. Trump is ready. One person told me he probably knows her record as AG and DA better than she does. And I don't doubt it. He's got Matt Gaetz up there. He's got Tulsi Gabbard up there. I feel good. And normally I'm nervous. And I'm not saying I'm not a little nervous, because that would be not true. But I had the folks that I know, and I've been around these guys now for 10 years, they're reassuring me that he is on his game. I will be interested to see the role of the moderators. It was interesting. They kind of leaked out that they didn't think their job, David Muir and Lizzie Davis, was to fact check. That came out from ABC. I'll be honest. I'm going to be interested to see how much of a role they play. Dana Bash and Jake Tapper, when the CNN Biden debacle happened, I think did a good job. Your job as a moderator is to moderate. Here's the issue. You respond. If you want to fact check, that's the job of the opponent. If Donald Trump gets up there and says, I'm from Mars, it's up to Kamala Harris to say, no, you're not. Not for the moderator. That's my view. It's too often that this is where they lose trust. Candy Crowley. And so, anyway, I just say all that because this is something that we'll talk about on Wednesday. And by the way, we've got amazing shows lined up all week. We will be live for the debate. If you want to watch it here, and I'll do analysis afterwards, right? So you can watch it with us real time. I'll do the analysis afterwards. Join us for that. That'll be fun. And then we've got Steve Cortez, Grace Curley, Robbie Staubach's going to be here later in this week. I mean, trust me, we've got an amazing week lined up. And then, as I mentioned, Scott Presler on his way up to talk about what's happening in Pennsylvania in terms of voter registration. But a big thing happened over the weekend that I think kind of, for obvious reasons, isn't getting the attention it deserved. The honeymoon ended, right? All of this amazing polling, it came to a screeching halt. Trump's now ahead. Now, you know what I think about national polls. I don't care. But the momentum has shifted back to Trump. And Nate Silver, the little guru from 538, he's now with this own, he created his own thing because 538, he sold the intellectual prop. Who cares, right? His models now have Trump winning. But the cool thing is the New York Times came out with this poll, big sample, likely voters. It was actually expensive, well done by them. And it shows Trump a couple key things. One, he's still seen as the agent of change. 53% say that he's the agent of change. They don't look at her as the agent of change. No kidding. She's the incumbent vice president. And then two is that they don't know a lot about her. So this morning she puts out this policy page. What a joke. And they're trying to check a box so that the press can say, oh, she's put out policy. But look what's up there. Rent. She's saying she's going to take, what is she, like my mom? This isn't, she's trying to run for president and she's talking about rent. And when you click on the button, there's nothing there. You know what's not there? National security, crime, immigration, the border, veterans. This is pathetic. She wants to be president and she doesn't say a word about military and the veterans or whatever. I'm sorry. It's almost disqualifying what's not there. But she wants to be able to check a box so that places like Politico and the New York Times and the Washington Post can say, oh, she's got this policy paper up there. Anyway, this is all huge, huge. Plus, other quick little note, Judge Marchand and Trump kicked that sentencing way down. This is all good news. I mean, he has had a really, really good week heading into the debate. Before I bring in Scott Presler, though, if you are a business owner or the person that's in charge of the finances, this is for you. Most of you have companies where you get a corporate credit card. This is the one from Ramp. Okay. It looks just like a Visa card. This one's blank, no numbers. You can't cheat on this one. Sorry, folks. Anyway, this could be a game changer when it comes to simplifying your business finances. Vendor payments, expense accounts, the folks that I know that have switched over to Ramp, and if you have 5 or more employees, just check it out. Go to ramp.com/Spicer and check it out. You'll get $250 just for checking it out. But this is unbelievable because you can issue these cards to your employees. It automatically collects receipts. The reporting is unbelievable. It's so much more efficient to use Ramp than a normal software. Plus, the controls that you can put on the expenses are unbelievable. You don't have to chase down receipts or spend time doing expense reports. It's easy to use. You can get started in literally like 15 minutes. And now you get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/Spicer, ramp.com/Spicer. Cards are issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC, terms and conditions apply. All right. I want to bring in the amazing, the most hardworking guy in politics right now, Mr. Scott Presler, who's been in Pennsylvania and doing the Lord's work, getting people registered and closing that gap to make a huge difference. Without further ado, Scott Presler. Scott Presler, welcome back to the show. Always great to see you.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, I want to get into the work that you're doing, how things have changed, where you've been, the full Scott background. But before I do that, big debate tomorrow night. You're out on the ground. You're always talking to people. What do you want to see? What do you think they want to see? What's the scuttle among the grassroots and the voters that you're coming into contact with?
Well, tomorrow we're having a debate watch party at the Philly Expo Center in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. That's in Oaks. I'm partnering with Turning Point Action and Cliff Maloney's PHA. So we're expecting hundreds of people. I mean, this is a make it or break it. And I think the one thing that's different, Sean, is finally we're having a debate before early voting begins. The last time we had John Fetterman debate Mehmet Oz, it was already during early voting when hundreds of thousands had already voted. So this is going to be a defining moment in history for our country. And I hope that President Trump is able to talk about the clear juxtaposition between his policies of a secure border, of jobs for our people, and no war, versus the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden Putin invading Ukraine, that we have millions of illegal aliens coming into our country, and that the economy is hurting moms in working class America.
Are people like, I was doing this morning meeting thing this morning that I do every morning at 9. And there was a woman on from Virginia. I think it was Virginia, who basically said, I don't even know if it's worth watching. Are the people that you're coming into contact with that aren't necessarily maybe Trump people, but just average voters, are they excited about the debate? Are they going to be tuning in?
Yes, I think this is going to be a highly watched event. And I know people are going to be streaming it on X and all of the social media platforms. I think that especially after President Trump demolished peacefully Joe Biden in the last debate, which made the Democrats undemocratically push him out of the election, I think all eyes are on this historic debate tomorrow.
Yeah, I get the sense too. I feel like two things. One, to your point about watching it on X, that like there is this legacy obsession with ratings. And I feel like it's stupid because people aren't going to stay up necessarily till 11 o'clock at night. They'll watch it. Maybe it's later. Maybe they watch it on X. Maybe they watch it here. I mean, we're going to have the debate on this channel. So you could watch it here, and we get thousands and thousands of people. And I know other people do the same. And yet the media is just going to focus on how many people watched it on a legacy broadcast network. But then secondly, I think that because they don't know that much about Kamala Harris, they're kind of like, I want to see this woman mano a mano with Donald Trump on the stage to see if she can be president.
Well, what I love, and just as a tangent for a second, the next President Trump administration could be he, Elon Musk, RF Kennedy Jr., and Tulsi Gabbard. And that just excites me thinking about all those players within his admin. But what I heard is that Tulsi Gabbard, who absolutely destroyed Kamala when she was a Democrat presidential candidate vying against Kamala, and I heard that Tulsi is actually doing debate prep with the president. So I cannot wait to see the fire that President Trump is going to bring, armed with the Tulsi Gabbard ammunition.
All right, I hate to interrupt this conversation with a great guy, but I got another great guy that I want to tell you about, my buddy Leo Grillo. He's the one that founded Delta Rescue. Go to deltarescue.org, see what I'm talking about, because Leo started when he rescued a Doberman, and that began a lifelong passion of his to care for animals, all sorts of animals, dogs, cats, horses that have been abused and neglected. And when you go on deltarescue.org, there's so many cool videos that show the work they're doing, how it started. You go down, like, no pun intended, a rabbit hole, because it shows you how this mission that Leo started evolved. And it's just impressive. If you're an animal lover, if you've rescued dogs or cats or horses, it doesn't matter. But the way that he does it and the way that the mission of Delta Rescue has evolved is just mind-blowing. And it relies completely on the help of people like you and me. So if you go to deltarescue.org, you can check out the videos. You can see the work. You can see how it's evolved. But you can also help by making a contribution to deltarescue.org. $100, $1,000. I don't really care. I mean, I'm sure Leo cares. He'd love to get more of the 1,000. But at the top, you can also see that estate planning kit. And that's really what I want you to think about. Just download it, take a look at it when you go to deltarescue.org, and then pray on it. Consider it. If this is something that is in your wheelhouse and you want this to be part of your legacy to help dogs and animals get rescued, then go to deltarescue.org. Think about making this part of your legacy and part of your estate. deltarescue.org. Thank you for your consideration. Yeah, I talked about this earlier, but I'm not going to name any names, but I talked to a lot of folks in Trump world over the weekend. He's ready. He is going to bring the fire, and he's not just, but I think to your point, it's the stats, it's the record, but it's also like the style. And Tulsi apparently and Matt Gaetz and others have played a huge role in helping him get ready. So I think this is going to be interesting. Let's pivot for a second to what you're doing. And so let's just lay the groundwork. Like, where are you now? What have you been doing the last 30 days? And how has your effort changed since we last spoke?
Thank you. Well, my organization is Early Vote Action. That's earlyvoteaction.com. And since you and I last spoke, we now have a state director John David Longo, the mayor of Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, the home of Butler, the site of the assassination attempt against our president. He is our state director. And we now have 30 staff across Pennsylvania that are working tirelessly, going to gun shows and farmers markets. And most recently, we were at the Puerto Rican parade in Berks County in Reading, one of the most consequential counties that President Trump must win this November. And so we are adding every single week hundreds of new registered Republicans to the voter registration totals, which we'll receive today on Monday. And so I just got back from my last trip outside of the Commonwealth. I went to Minnesota, and let me tell you, those people are fired up to defeat Stolen Valor Tim Walz. Stolen Valor Tim Walz that shut down the state, and let's be real, put COVID positive patients into nursing homes, killing the very constituents that he was responsible for. And so for the next 57 days, Sean, I am not leaving Pennsylvania. All of my time, all of my energy are going towards winning those 19 electoral college points to deliver Pennsylvania for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I want to get to a bunch of the stuff you said. It was funny that we had two candidates in the last, I think, week from Pennsylvania on the 8th District, Rob Bresnahan and then Ryan Mackenzie. And both of them, I think, brought your name up saying, we need more Scott Presler here. It was like, there's that old Saturday Night Live thing. It's like, we need more cowbell. They were like, we need more Presler. And I think it's funny. I mean, you've kind of become a folk hero. People are like, they want you to ride into town to register their voters, to get people fired up. It's just on a personal level. It's got to have changed a lot from getting kind of, I can't get a meeting, to now everybody wants to meet with you.
It's very humbling. You know, I mean, to be on this show with you, somebody that is so respected, with the president and his inner circle. Thank you for the opportunity to be on Donald Trump.
You're the guy doing the work, brother. I mean, honestly, I'd rather get the credit that you're getting than sitting and doing a show. You're out there pounding the pavement, bringing people over. And I think that is so critical and it's so crucial. So thank you for what you're doing. I sit in a chair and talk to people. You knock on doors, get them to take an action that will be decisive in the outcome of an election. I mean, I don't mean it. Bottom line is that is much more impactful. And I appreciate that. And that's why I love having you on, because you're a doer.
Thank you. Well, and Sean, you mentioned Bresnahan and Mackenzie, and I want to be clear to anybody in Pennsylvania or anybody across the country that wants to ensure that President Trump has a Senate and has a House when we elect him back into the White House, we must support Dave McCormick for the United States Senate. So when you vote for Donald Trump, you vote top to bottom. You vote for Dave McCormick. If you're in the 8th Congressional District, you vote for Bresnahan to defeat Democrat Biden Kamala supporter Matt Cartwright. And I need your vote also for Mackenzie to defeat Democrat Biden Kamala Harris supporter Susan Wild. Those areas of Wayne, Pike, Luzerne, Lackawanna, Berks, Allentown, and Lehigh, I need every single one of you to make sure that we are giving Donald Trump a Congress that he can legislate when we inaugurate him on January 20th, 2025.
In your mind, it all comes down to Pennsylvania, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm convinced that. So let me ask you this question, because I asked both Mackenzie and Bresnahan this question. If you're me or anyone that watches this show on election night and you want to know, I mean, if we just, as the predicate, assume that Pennsylvania, so goes the White House, where do we want to look in Pennsylvania to know how it's going to happen?
Well, a couple different metrics. We win 25% of Philadelphia. We win Pennsylvania. We win the White House. That's it. And
now, Pennsylvania, Philly in the suburbs, like what is that thing that we should be looking at on election?
Philadelphia, if you see our margins, Sean, going upwards of 20% entirely in Philadelphia County, 20% for Donald Trump, we are going to have a very good night in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
All right.
If you see 40% of Allegheny County, Pittsburgh, but I mean, you got Moon Township, Cranberry, all of those adjacent places. If you see 40% for Donald Trump coming in the election, it's ours. If you see us flip Erie County from blue to red, it's ours. There are so many pathways to victory within Pennsylvania. And with my organization, earlyvoteaction.com, we are focusing on all 67. Yes, it's to make sure that we're stopping the bleeding in the blue counties, but we are upping the rurals. And one important data point that I think is interesting is Wayne County, Pennsylvania. It's just north on the border of New York above Pike and Milford. We have actually requested as Republicans more mail-in ballots than the Democrats in a very rural county. That is showing me that Republicans are finally getting on board with early voting. And if we can up those rurals 1,000 more votes per county, Donald Trump will win this election.
Okay. All right. Okay. So give me an idea of historically, where do we stand registration wise? I mean, you pick the metric, but I'm thinking maybe 2016 or 2020 versus now. Like, what is it where have we come from?
Let's start with 2016. So when Donald Trump was elected with 40,000, which is nothing,
right.
more votes in 2016 in Pennsylvania, there were more than 900,000 more registered Democrats than Republicans.
So almost a million.
Almost a million. Almost a million, and Donald Trump still won. And I know that number sounds daunting, but it shows you it can be done. So let's fast forward to 2020. When there were 650,000 more registered Democrats than Republicans. And I use this word loosely, save the tomatoes at home, but Joe Biden won the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania by 80,000 votes. Now, I'll remind people that was with the legislature not consenting to mail-in ballots. You had everything in the kitchen sink thrown at President Trump. Right. And that state in 2020 was decided by 80,000 votes. Now, what has changed since 2020? And by the way, I think it's important to point out that Dr. Jill Stein, Green Party, was on the ballot in 2016. She was not on the ballot.
That's so critical. Those I've been saying this for a while. The third party matters. And it's not just the third party. Jill Stein in particular. This was the case in Michigan, and I'm glad you brought it up. The difference in so many cases in 2020 was that the Green Party didn't have a serious candidate. It wasn't robust as it was in 2016. And you're making that point now about 2024.
Yes. And so the Democrat Supreme Court of Pennsylvania kicked the Green Party off the ballot in 2020. So now what has changed now in 2024 to the audience at home? Well, that 900,000 number has been reduced to 350,000. We're getting the new data today, so I'll be able to report fresh data momentarily. So 350. Now, that's active plus inactive voters. And so an inactive voter, if they show up at the polls on election day, they can still vote. But if you take out inactive voters, that number, Sean, is 170,000. Just D's over R's. That shows me the metrics, the voter registration data says Pennsylvania is in play. And I must also point out two last things. Dr. Jill Stein is on the ballot in 2024 in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in North Carolina, in Nevada, in Arizona, in all of the swing states. And last, this is very critical, last thing, the Democrats' mail-in ballot requests are down 30% in Philadelphia County, are down 30% in Allegheny County, and are down over 100,000 fewer now than they were 4 years at the same point in time.
I'm telling you, look, for everyone watching right now, if Trump wins Pennsylvania in those 19 electoral votes, it's over. They can't win without Pennsylvania. And I know the media tries to create these paths where, she creates a new state or something. But the reality is, I want to go back to this point because I don't want to dwell on it. But the point about Jill Stein and being on the ballot is so critical because that's what made the difference in 2016. People who are voting for a Green Party are likely, if that choice was taken away, would probably vote for Kamala Harris. And so it's a big deal that she's back on these key ballots. And I don't think that can be overstated. Scott, let me just ask you, so you guys are focusing a lot on the registering of people. How
Yes.
long can you keep doing that in the state of Pennsylvania?
The deadline to register to vote in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is October 21st.
Okay.
October 21st is the deadline, and the deadline to request a mail-in ballot is October 29th. However, to you at home, if you're a truck driver, member of the military, pilot, a flight attendant, if you have a job that you possibly could have your flight canceled by Pete Buttigieg and have your luggage stolen then by Joe Biden's staff, then please, I beg you, if it's a possibility that your transportation might be delayed going into Tuesday, November 5th, you must vote early or you must vote by mail. We cannot leave it to chance for you to lock in your vote, especially in the swing states. And so here's the most important thing, though. Don't wait until October 29th to request your mail-in ballot. Your mail-in ballot request are processed in the order that they are received. So if the Democrats process all of theirs first and you wait until the 29th to do yours, your ballot may not be sent to you, delivered to your house. Let's say that you're in Florida, but you live in Pennsylvania. You may not get it until November 1st, until November 2nd. And then you're going to have your mail-in ballot be delivered by 8 p.m. on Tuesday, November 5th in order for it to be accepted legally. So please do not delay in getting your mail-in ballot if that is your choice.
It sounds like an infomercial. Your order will be processed in the order it was returned. Operators are standing by, but do not delay. So is that, you mentioned getting the ballot in by November 5th, right? Is that a change from last cycle? Because I remember last cycle in Pennsylvania, there was this whole uproar about them taking ballots like at Christmas time.
They must be postmarked Tuesday, November 5th. They must be postmarked. Now, there's some lawsuits going on over whether or not the outside envelopes, which must be signed, a court ruled that they had to have the actual date being November 5th or before in order to be accepted. But of course, Mark Elias and his people got it.
Super
so
lawyer.
even if they put their birthday, even if they put the wrong date, as long as it's postmarked, it will still be accepted.
Okay, but it has to get in there regardless by
November 5th by 8 p.m. Tuesday,
okay.
November 5th.
So it by election day, if your ballot doesn't get there, then it doesn't matter. So if it gets there on the 6th, but it was postmarked, does it count?
I will have to look into that to make sure. I don't want to say something wrong to your audience.
No, I appreciate that. I'm just, but the point is act early, right? Get it done, yes. And that way you don't have to worry about it. But this is the shenanigans that they play with. And I brought this up with Mackenzie. I brought it up with Bresnahan. I think that, we saw this last time with Trump, that he has a big election day score run up, and then they swamp the vote after that. And I think part of what we need to do on the right is just get those ballots, get them in, make sure that the run up the score so big in Pennsylvania, because this is where it's going to come down to. So once you get these folks registered, what's the next step in making sure that they actually cast a ballot?
So we follow up with them. Every person that we register to vote, we have an entire file of those people, the thousands of people that we have added to the voter rolls. And so we contact them. The majority of people, we get to leave their cell phone, their email address, and of course we have their home address. So, hey, Sean, I registered you to vote outside of Cabela's. I know that Second Amendment rights and hunting rights are important to you as a hunter in a state where of the 930,000 people, 30% of Pennsylvania hunters are not registered to vote. Do you have a plan to vote? Do you have a ride to the polls? Would you like to vote early? I know that hunting season is upon us. If you want to go out and be in a blind and go hunt deer all day, why don't you vote early? Why don't you bring some of your hunting buddies with you to vote early? And so really, this is about following up and following through with people. We are not done registering a voter until that voter has been actualized and mobilized to the polls.
Yeah.
And so in Pennsylvania, of course, you can vote on Tuesday, November 5th. Of course, you can vote by mail. But something that nobody's talking about, which is very critical, is we have in-person voting per se. What I mean by that is you can vote a mail-in ballot in person. It's still called voting by mail, but you're doing it in person at your Bureau of Elections. And the way that it's done is mail-in ballots supposedly are able to be sent out by September 15th. In-person mail-in voting is going to start by October 15th. Now, this is why this is so important. A lot of people, Sean, I have heard, are being moved from active to inactive, or they're not registered to vote. So you at home, I don't care if you just voted this year. I don't care if you just voted in an August Florida primary. Please listen to me. Check your voter status right after you're done listening to the Sean Spicer Show. Please check your voter status. Type into the internet, Florida, check voter registration. Pennsylvania, check voter registration. Any website that ends with gov, meaning government, is good. Any website that ends with org is probably a Democrat website. So please check your website, check your status to make sure that you're an active voter registered at your current address with your preferred party in a state like Arizona, Nevada, Florida, Pennsylvania, California, etc. It is imperative. Now, here's why. One last layer. Let's say that you're not registered to vote, but you listen to me on the Sean Spicer Show and you voted early. If you vote on October 15th, which is prior to the deadline on October 21st, and they say to you, but Sean, you're not registered to vote. Because you went to vote early, you have time to rectify that issue. You still have time prior to the October 21st deadline to register to vote at your current address and fix the problem. Versus showing up on Tuesday, November 5th, oh, I'm so sorry, Sean, you're not registered to vote. I can't help you. Vote a provisional, which isn't going to count. And that's why early voting is imperative.
So how many, I mean, is this a widespread problem?
Yes.
No,
yes.
What, in Pennsylvania or nationwide?
Nationwide.
But I thought the Dems were trying to get, so who's creating this problem?
That's a great question. I can't answer that for you.
So if I go to vote right now, are you telling me that I should just go cast my vote early so that it's locked in and they can't screw with it?
Yes.
Okay. So as soon as early voting starts in my state. And by the way, on SeanSpicer.com, I have a link under resources that has a list of every state. So if you're wondering what state your state deadline is, just go to SeanSpicer.com. You'll see that resource tab at the top. So I want to just go in Pennsylvania, cast that vote, and then there's no way they can screw with me, right?
Lock it in. So that way, if you go to vote on Tuesday, November 5th, they can't say.
But that, just so we're clear, you want people to do that in lieu of voting on November 5th. Get it done, right?
Yeah. Yes. What I'm saying is the likelihood of something going wrong will be prevented if you lock in your vote early.
Okay. So right now, when does early voting start in Pennsylvania again?
Usually around October 15th, you may visit your Board of Elections. So contact whatever county you're in, Westmoreland County Board of Elections. Ask them what is the first date that you can come in to do in-person mail-in voting.
Okay, so in-person mail-in voting, I just want to be clear, because in Virginia, where I live, there's mail-in voting. You get the ballot, you send it back in, or you can go to either, I think City Hall has a voting location, and there's like one other one, and you go in and cast your ballot as if it were election day. You put it in the scanner, the whole deal. In Pennsylvania, do you have to get the mail-in ballot first and then go cast it, or do you literally go in person and cast your vote?
You can go in person, and they will print it for you on demand. In-person mail-in ballot.
Okay. See, because we do it, we get the thing, and then we fill out the little things and put it in the scanner as if we're voting. You literally fill in the mail-in ballot and then hand it back to them?
Correct. So go to my Bureau of Elections. I say, I'm here to vote in early mail-in ballot. They will ask me what my precinct is, make sure it's the correct ballot. They will print off a ballot for me. I will fill it out in secrecy. I will give my ballot back to them in person, a mail-in paper ballot that was printed on demand at my local Bureau of Elections.
You know, you mentioned Mark Elias, the Dem super lawyer. What is their side doing? Like, what are they doing to do what you do in a state like Pennsylvania, or are they?
Well, I can tell you that I can't speak to all the legalese.
Right.
I'm a registration person, but I can tell you that since the Democrats pushed Joe Biden out of the way, since they installed Kamala, since she chose the most extreme far left stolen valor Tim Walz candidate, that there hasn't been a single week in Pennsylvania since that happened that the Democrats have outregistered Republicans, meaning every single week consistently, Republicans are out registering the Democrats by over 2,000 voter registrations. And I do believe it's in part because of the work that my
Of
organization is.
course. Yeah. Are there other groups that you see on the ground doing this? Are you coordinating with other people? You mentioned Turning Point. What are I mean, like, so who, because again, I brought this up before. This is the first cycle legally where you guys can coordinate these things. Are there groups that you're coordinating with or working with?
Yes, any other PAC. We are a political action committee and we can receive unlimited contributions at earlyvoteaction.com. And so we can coordinate with other PACs. So tomorrow during the debate watch party, Turning Point Action, Noah Formica, he is their lead for Pennsylvania. We are working hand in glove with Turning Point Action and Tyler Boyer. And then you have Cliff Maloney's PHAs. All the work that we're doing, all that data that we're driving is going to turn into the chasing of ballots that Cliff Maloney and his team are going to be able to use to get those Republicans we registered, those low props, out to vote. Now, again, we are not able to coordinate with campaigns, but I will tell you, in addition to the PAG, GOP, RNC, they have their own staff. Then you also have Dave McCormick's campaign. They have their own staff. All the congressional, they have theirs. And for full communication, because I know Media Matters is probably watching, I cannot legally coordinate with any of those entities as a PAC. And then you also have auxiliary organizations. And so I can firmly say on your show today that I believe this is the most money, these are the most staffers, and this is the most ad spending that I've ever seen in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for a Republican presidential year.
Wow. When we started this conversation, you and I, months and months ago, as I kind of joked and alluded to, there was resistance, to put it mildly and politely, by a lot of the party elders and elitists. And it seems as though that has changed significantly. How has it changed for you since the new regime has come in at the RNC?
I mean, Laura, my hat is off to you. Every time I text her, just explaining something or asking, for example, for a video for Pennsylvania, just talking about early voting. I mean, she is prompt. Within a minute flat, the woman will text back to me. And from the previous administration of reaching out to that individual for 304 days without a response, it is night and day that the grassroots finally have a seat at the table, that we have a voice. And I'm an extension of all the committeemen and volunteers across PA. And so I feel like finally we are recognized for all of the blood and sweat and tears and elbow grease that we are putting in every single day.
I know this is not your wheelhouse, but are you, what I hear from a lot of folks is concern about election integrity, about illegals voting, about things that the Dems are going to do after. Do you feel like, from what you see from your vantage point, that there's enough attention being paid to ensuring that illegals aren't voting, that there's an election integrity plan in place, that there's enough lawyers ready to go post-election?
I think we need a lawsuit. I want to say God bless Attorney General Ken Paxton for making sure the illegal aliens are not voting in Texas. God bless Governor Abbott for getting thousands of them off of the voter rolls. God bless Ohio for also doing the same. And your governor and my former governor, Governor Glenn Youngkin. All three of those states have factually had illegal aliens on their rolls and got them off of them. This isn't a story. This is something that is factual and true. And if it happened in those three large states, Virginia, I would say, is comparable to Pennsylvania, then we probably have illegal aliens, aka non-citizens, on the voter rolls in PA. Now, I've been reaching out to all of the BOEs because the Pennsylvania Department of State will not respond back to me. I've been doing
that's just so we're clear. Pennsylvania, yeah. It's like Al Schmidt. Isn't he the Secretary of State? He's a Republican.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know
Well,
Trump's been critical of him, but this is interesting. So like he won't
no,
respond to you.
the
They won't respond
SOS.
to you.
No, the Department of State, I've been reaching out to them since the 22nd of July, asking every single day, can you, the Department of State, tell me with certainty that not a single illegal alien is on the voter rolls?
Right. Well,
And they
they can't.
refuse to answer. So I've been going, Sean, board of election by board of election, county by county. And I've heard back from Wayne and Pike and Lackawanna, and they tell me that they don't believe that any illegal aliens are on the voter rolls. But what I'm also doing to my election integrity crowd is asking, do you have backup generators in case of a power outage, like after Milwaukee? Do you have enough paper to make sure we don't have run out of paper ballots, like what happened in Luzerne
Yep.
County on election day in November of 2022? And can you tell me that the machines are not connected to the internet? So we are literally
Good
putting
for
on
you. Good for you. This is so fun. I mean, because they wanted an excuse after, hey, we didn't know there was a paper. Staples was closed and we couldn't figure it out. But
baloney.
you're asking the right questions ahead of time, so they don't have the excuse. They can't say we didn't think about it. We didn't know you
Correct.
needed paper for an election. But now
Correct.
you take that away, because that's what I love, is that one of the things sometimes that I talk about, it's like, take the excuse off the table, right?
Yes.
And they're going to be able to say, oh, here's Scott Presler 18 times asking us, did one of you guys go down to Office Depot and get enough paper? Because we can't use that as an excuse anymore. And that's brilliant, because we have to blunt their arguments so that they can't just go, oh, we had no idea that you needed this.
Yes. Well, and the letter, which is on my social media, volunteers on their own have been duplicating it and sending it out to their own BOE as well. So every BOE in Pennsylvania is aware of these questions that we are presenting to them.
By the way, I mean, that's like asking like an army, do you guys have guns? Right? It's sort of like a Pennsylvania, like asking these guys, do you have paper? Are you ready for the election? This is what they do. But I love the accountability factor here, because it's like after the fact, we didn't think about it. And I think that's the brilliant part about this, is we need to take excuses off the table. We need to make sure that they're boxed in to doing the job, following the law. And that to me is important. I just want to kind of just real quick, like I said, you're on the ground. We see a lot of stuff in polling, the gender gap. We see that really favors Kamala. We see Trump building up ground with minorities. We hear a lot about Project 2025 from the Dems. What is it like from a guy who's on the ground, knocking on doors, interacting with voters? What do you see that maybe we're not seeing or being told through the national polling?
Young people are coming over to President Trump. And this is not just anecdotal from my team being at the Penn State University football game this weekend. And I mean, we were going fraternity to fraternity. and I mean, seriously, they are so pro-Trump. And so I'm alerting people, if you're from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, you can legally register to vote in Pennsylvania. We are courting those votes in PA. And
as a student, you mean?
As a student, legally and lawfully registered to vote and vote in PA. Now, the data point that I want to point to is Center County, home of the largest campus for PSU. They are under 1,000 voters away from flipping to a plurality of registered Republicans.
That's crazy.
That is historic. That is historic.
I know.
And then, and furthermore, I want to give a shout out to anybody watching right now that is straddling the fence. I want to say God bless R.F. Kennedy Jr. Thank you for being so bold. Thank you for putting everything aside to save our country. I have been talking to RFK Jr. supporters across the entire Commonwealth. And I mean, these are moms. These are people that want to make America healthy again. And people that have never voted Republican, that one voted for Jill Stein and she wasn't going to vote this year. She's voting for Donald Trump. So we are bringing over a lot of those disaffected voices and making sure that it is Make America Great Again and Make America Healthy Again. And we're welcoming them into our party.
All right. Scott, as I said at the beginning, you're out there doing the Lord's work. I mean, this, and it's amazing. I mean, like I said, we have Ryan Mackenzie on. We had Rob Bresnahan. They both bringing you up, right? You're obviously having a huge impact. I think if we win Pennsylvania, the margins are so close. And so this is going to make a difference. I'm convinced of it. I really appreciate all the work you're doing, your ability to check in with us, to tell us. And so in these final 57 days, I mean, let's check in again in a couple of weeks as we get closer to that final deadline to see if these numbers continue to, well, I think they will, but how great they continue to move in our direction. I appreciate everything you're doing. Look forward to having you back. All right, guys, real quick, tomorrow is debate night. We're gonna crush this. We'll bring you all the insights that you need to know. I've been talking to Team Trump. I'll tell you what I'm hearing. Tomorrow, you're gonna want to definitely see the show, and then post debate will be live. So tune in, watch the debate with us, and then I will be speaking to a group of the Trump folks here in Virginia ahead of it. I've been asked by the Trump team to brief them. This is going to be a big night. You're going to want to make sure you're hitting that notification button now so that you don't miss any of this. But after the debate, we go live, and then obviously Wednesday we'll have more breakdowns. So hit that notification button, hit the subscribe button. Steve Cortez, Grace Curley, Robbie Staubach. The rest of the week is just going to continue to be an all-star lineup. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Sean Spicer Show. Thanks for being with us. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.